Don't touch that dial. You're tuned in to the Dread Podcast Network.
Welcome to Development Hell. For every horror movie that hits V.O.D, countless others end up D.O.A. Development Hell is the podcast dedicated to unearthing these cursed horror productions. We're going to find out what went wrong, and then decide if these titles still stand a shot at the green light. I am your host, Josh Korngut. I am the managing editor of Dread Central. I am also a filmmaker in Toronto, Canada. This podcast is a proud member of the Dread Podcast Network. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Development Hell. Longtime listeners will know, but if you're new around here, every once in a while we take a break from talking about horror movies that were never made to talk about some of the independent horror that's on the horizon. And sometimes we do this by visiting genre film festivals. So I think this is our second or third year in a row. We got to check out the genre titles at this year's Sundance Film Festival. And reliably, there was some crazy shit. We are once again joined by Chad Collins. He is a Dread Central staff writer. I've been told he's a prof, and he has been on this podcast multiple times. We talked about Scream, but he was also here to talk about Sundance, and he was also here to talk about the Fantasia Film Festival. Chad, how's it going?
I'm doing very well, and thank you for such a wonderful, warm welcome.
You're welcome. Chad, who are you for those of us that need a reminder?
Well, I've been told that you've been told that I'm a prof. So I'm a prof, I'm a writer, and I'm just a nerd.
What do you teach?
I teach communication and student life skills, so I hope to prepare the next generation for the horrors of the world.
I was going to say for the battles ahead.
For the battles ahead.
We're talking about Sundance today, which I'm fucking excited about because every year I'm like, oh, stuffy independent film, snooze. No, every year they're crazy and they're good. And, well, some are bad, but that's fun too. So my first question for both of us today, what is Sundance? How does it stand distinct among all of the other film festivals out there? Chad?
For me, I think it's credibility. I think there are a lot of film fests and several, especially genre fests that I love. I love Panic Fest. I love Brooklyn Horror. I love Fantasia. I was on here chatting with you about that. Sundance, though, I think is just like a legacy player. It is one of those legacy fests, and as a pioneer, especially for independent filmmaking, I think they pretty regularly showcase some of the best. And it's always really exciting because you get these sort of early insights in January to the kinds of movies that by summer and fall awards season, everyone is going to be talking about.
Yeah, totally. And there's at least one or two genre or horror films every year that end up making a splash out of the festival. And I don't think this year is going to be too different. Every festival out there, most of them have like a midnight or a horror section. How do you think this one stacks up in terms of, how seriously they take it and how the industry sees it?
So, having had the privilege to be there in person last year, the atmosphere for the Midnighters, I will say, is pretty sensational. They are packed theaters. It is a very distinct crowd. Because I saw some non-horror titles, and that was very respectable, and everyone was very quiet, and it was a very different vibe than going into the like raucous, screaming auditoriums for the Midnighters, because regularly cast and crew is there, and it just is a really, I think, celebratory atmosphere. And certainly Sundance doesn't sort of showcase horror in the same vein that these like genre-specific festivals do, but they do get a pretty solid just grab bag of soon-to-be breakout hits, right? Hereditary, Talk to Me, and then also some like international movies that otherwise probably wouldn't get the kind of eyeballs here that they otherwise would. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean.
No, 100%. And because it's like this independent film festival, like it's probably the most prestigious of all the indie film festivals, but it doesn't really produce like award season fodder in the way that like Venice or TIFF or I don't know, those other like stuffier can places do. Do you
I
think
think
that's
Coda would like to talk.
oh, is Coda? Coda
Best
Coda's just
Picture winner
breaking
Coda was a
boundaries.
Sundance
But would
premiere.
you not say that's an exception to some sort of
I
rule?
think Coda is an exception to any rule
I
ever.
actually never saw Coda, so I don't know where you're
It did
talking.
make me cry.
Oh, that's good. Um, deaf people?
Hmm.
Okay, that yeah. Okay, so that's silly in my face, but still, do you think it also has something to do with like it's right at the beginning of the year and like we're just not ready yet for like these award season campaigns?
I think so. I read somewhere, and it makes a ton of sense that awards voters they vote for what they saw recently because
Same.
it's hard to remember things.
Yeah, they vote for like whoever sent them a coffee table book in the mail.
Yeah.
Just kidding, because they don't do that anymore. Okay, interesting. So a question I'm excited about for both of us is what are the best and most interesting genre movies we have seen historically at the festival? And more interestingly enough, which ones have we imprinted on for whatever reason and whatever that may mean to
Hold a very special place in my heart for Chloe Okono's Watcher, which was at the 2022 festival. It was my sort of first official festival coverage,
you?
and Watcher is incredible. I got to sit down with Chloe and we got to talk about some of the influences. And I do genuinely think Watcher was really scary. And movies that actually kind of chill me and scare me are hard to come by. But Watcher did it.
I think my version of that was Talk to Me. I remember just seeing the little feature image, and that was the year everything was online, and I was just like, I don't care what I review, it has to be that. It was just like psychically enamored with it. And it's so good. It's so scary. I love it. It's fun and it's like non-pretentious.
You
Um,
made Talk to Me talk to me.
I made Talk to Me actually. So, did I ever tell you about the poster that I ordered?
Is it the one with the main poster with your review on it?
Yeah, but did I ever tell you about what, like the one I ordered?
No.
Okay. So let's just start by saying that Chad's review for Watcher was prominently displayed on that poster. Very prestigious, very exciting. When this happens for one of our writers, I take note. But now I'm talking about me. And so yes, as everyone's probably heard 1,000, I was quoted on the poster for Talk to Me. I was like so excited. I still am. I'm gonna like eat off of that forever, kind of like being prom king. So one day I was like, oh, I should have this in my house. I'm gonna like buy it. So I like took about 30 seconds, went on like, I don't know, some kind of like poster, like frame store dot app or whatever. And like didn't really pay attention to it. I was probably stoned. And then like weeks go by, and then this like ginormous, like something like the size of my refrigerator shows up in the mail. And I'm like, what is this? I open it. It's like a movie theater poster, if not bigger. It was like the biggest thing. It's taller than me. It's like the most frighteningly ginormous, idiotic thing. I did not look at the size. And
Did
so
you
that's,
frame it?
it was framed. It came
It
framed.
came framed.
Yeah.
Do you
So
still
now
have it displayed?
I no, I never displayed it. It's in the it's in the garden, and it acts as like a privacy wall.
All right.
So always look at dimensions when you're ordering on Temu. Make sure it's 3-dimensional. When you're ordering stuff, make sure you know the size of it. It's very important. Okay, and what other titles have you connected with from the fest?
I'm gonna go deep cut here.
Oh, well,
And I'm gonna say Cat Person from 2023. So 2023 was the year I was a member of the Press Inclusion Initiative at the festival. So that year holds a special place in my heart. And I am one of three people who liked Cat Person. And I will die on that hill. That Cat Person was good. That Cat Person's final 30 minutes that strayed heavily from the source material
oh,
was good.
I like it too. We were just talking about it the other day. I was like, did that come out? And you said yes.
It
So that's
did.
crazy to
It
me.
went direct to a weird streaming platform that I've never heard of before.
That's too bad. Like
I
Colgate TV dot fresh.
I tried to talk to me cat person and no one listened.
Nobody wanted it. And the people that did see it were like, stinky. You know what I mean? They were just too stinky about it. I don't know. I think they wanted in that movie.
The oh my God, I don't know Vine names, right? I know faces. There
Look,
were Vine faces
I believe that
actively.
there were red lines in that movie. Yeah, people don't like when you subvert tone. So if you're giving them something that seems tonally kind of light, don't divert because they're gonna feel like you have like crossed them, I
And
think.
I'm the opposite. I want you to divert. I want you to just get
Mhm.
inexplicably dark
Oh my
for
God.
30 minutes.
I do too. I like a bit of like a surprise like that, but that's because, you know, I have taste. Okay, what else has connected with me over the years? I think the first movie I reviewed at Sundance ever was Piggy from 2022, which was great, really. It's like a feminist woman-made slasher film about a fat lead, and it's like really interesting. Definitely reminds me of one of the movies we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Have you ever seen the DVD box art for Piggy?
No,
It's so funny. They make it look like a 2008 like slasher. Like she's like in the woods holding a big knife. It's
I
so
do see. I'm getting like After Dark Film
yeah,
Festival
yeah, that.
vibes.
It couldn't be farther away from the truth. I love when they Photoshop props. That's great. Um,
That's fantastic.
yeah. Um, I think we can move on. I was gonna say like, well, that's bad movies we saw, but people get mad about that. So the first movie that we're gonna talk about today.
Let's do it. Are
All
you
right.
excited to pronounce these Norwegian names?
Oh, I'm avoiding names at all costs. The first movie I want to talk about today is The Ugly Stepsister. The logline for this one goes: in a fantastical world, Elvira attempts to outshine her stunning stepsister, willing to do whatever it takes to attract the prince's attention. This one is not what I was expecting at all. And I was pretty lucky that I got to watch it before the crazy like buzz around it hit the internet because on paper this one kind of looks like a stuffy period piece drama horror that is sort of subverting another fairy tale, this time Cinderella, but we're focusing on the stepsister. You know, we've seen this done a lot, but boy is it a whole lot more than that. It is a Norwegian horror movie that is heavy on body horror throughout the whole thing. So basically it's like it's talking about the brutality that women go through for beauty, and we're showing it very much face forward. So every different procedure that this girl has to go through to get prettier for the dance, we are lingering on and we are seeing in grave detail. And unfortunately, it's set in like 19th century Norway, I think. And so we're seeing some very old school, like cosmetic procedures in grave detail that is just like rudely prolonged in each instance, which was just, I loved it. I will say, I tend not to look at gore, and I did avert for a lot of this one. And I remember when I'd look back, like it was still happening. Like this shit kept going. So this is a film directed by Emily Blechfeld, and she wrote it, she directed it. I believe it's going to be picked up by Shudder for this side of the world for sometime later this year, and is going to be in theaters in Norway soon. So why don't we get into it? Chad, how would you describe the tone of The Ugly Stepsister?
I thought it was very funny. It reminded me, just to use a contemporary example, of The Substance Sum,
Big time.
where it obviously had very like sort of very serious, very kind of poignant key themes, but it was so absurd that it kept it kind of light, even when it very clearly was drifting into like dark territory, right? When you just look at it on the surface, like what is conspicuously happening, it's pretty horrific.
It's not, it is extremely horrific. Like this movie is really, really brutal and really disgusting. And we hear that a lot, these days, even post Substance. But I think something that made the news, which is usually something I scoff at, is somebody at the premiere for this vomited in the theater. And whenever I hear that, I think, like, okay, sure. But this is Sundance. This is not a place where people are vomiting in the aisle all that regularly. So I do believe that it happened. And then I did see some photo evidence on Twitter.
Yeah.
Obviously, it might not have anything to do with the movie. They could have just been, not feeling good. But still, that's good press. Do you think this was gross enough to make you throw up?
I think so. There was one particular scene
Oh.
that I did very vocally shout no and try to avert my eyes.
Oh
I
my.
think what works with it being so gross is that it is pretty, I don't want to say restrained, but it's not nonstop. It's not like an onslaught of gore.
Mm,
It comes out in very specific moments, and I think withholding it and then hitting you with it kind of augments it and makes it that much ickier.
for sure. It also like kind of does it in a very mundane way. Like we're just like kind of sitting with her bored family as they like wait for her in the doctor's like theater. And then all of a sudden, like a hammer comes out and it just is
Oh no.
horrible. Yeah, you're right. There's these set pieces almost scattered throughout the film, um musical style really, and it's each of these moments of her trying to beautify herself either with the help of a procedure or on her own, and it's fucking disgusting. I mean, I'm assuming the original Cinderella, like all those old school fairy tales, had some grotesqueness in it. I think I remember. Okay,
Mhm.
so there's a pretty awful moment with somebody's feet, and I'm pretty sure that does pull directly from the
Yeah.
original. Does it?
I mean, yeah, that's why I think it was so revolting.
Yeah,
I'm
that's.
really having a visceral reaction right now. That was the one scene in particular that I just,
I also have a thing about broken noses in movies, and this triggered that a little bit. It's funny, this movie premiered on the same night or day that The Substance was nominated for like, an unheard of amount of Academy Awards for a horror movie. And I kind of thought that was like a poetic thing because
Mhm.
there's a lot that those two movies have in common. Like, this are movies made by women, these about a woman's experience, and then through the lens of like really extreme body horror while talking about, the blights they face looking for youth and beauty, and like, literal procedures that they go through
Mhm.
and the horrific outcomes of it. Now they couldn't be more different in terms of like setting or all that, but do you expect to see a lot of comparisons?
I think so. I think it's just natural to want to compare one thing to another. I do it all the time. I think it's I think it's going to be a harder sell than the substance. It's definitely much more gruesome.
Yeah, well, people said that everyone's like, "The Substance is so fucking gross," and I was like, "It's not that bad."
Yeah, comparatively now, no.
I know
But I
this.
do
No.
think what I really appreciated about both is I liked the just kind of like contextual patriarchy where these women are fighting themselves, they're fighting other women, and they're pitted that way with this overarching like patriarchal force that is compelling them to be younger, be prettier, be thinner,
And do whatever it takes.
and yeah,
I
all of
do.
which I was just going to share. I looked it up. All of that was historically accurate.
Ew. Fucking nasty movie. I love also because Cinderella's included. What a bitch. And I kind of like love her. She's like doing her own thing, but following her own trajectory pretty spot on. And I like kind of enjoyed that about her. Also, she's has sex. Wow, that was great.
She does. Were you team Elvira or team Agnes?
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck Cinderella. No way.
No, that's
Awful.
what the movie wants you to do. You
Well, they were,
support
they have,
both women.
no, no, what, no, the blonde's gone.
Agnes had a bad attitude.
He's the worst. Also, like, stop punching down. Maybe you're poor and like like a housekeeper, but you're so hot. Leave her
He
alone.
really was. Cinderella was way too pretty to have that much attitude.
Oh yeah. You know when like someone's that hot, often like they're just kind of like nice num-nums, you know? That's what
Hmm.
I want out of Cinderella. Um okay, so the ugly stepsister, the titular ugly stepsister herself, is painted throughout the whole film as like this like fat, ugly bitch. And there's a moment where we see her nude and they're framing her as like the fattest, most disgusting like thing in the world. But she's so hot and just like perfectly shaped and like has a big bum. And I was like, Europeans don't like fat people. And that was what I took away from that. You remember when she's like on the chair and they're like showing her
Yeah.
butt? And I was like, what is not appealing about this?
It does not help that they lead into it with her sneaking like a cinnamon roll from her dresser
Oh,
drawer.
no, not the cinnamon roll. Yeah. And the eating stuff comes to a for me, what was the most shocking moment in the film? And I guess we'll avoid talking about it, but I thought there was like a magic element when she there's a moment where she like consumes something and then later on it has dire consequences. I thought it was like a magic bean or something. No, this is stuff that really exists. So for a lot of the movie, I
Magic
was like,
bean.
this is mystical magic bean movie. No, it's not. Have you read Grady Hendrix's book, My Best Friend's Exorcism?
I have, yes. I know where you're going with this.
They have a very similar horrific theme in both. And say the book was worse, but this one was
Yeah.
bad too. I remember reading because that book is generally pretty light, so.
Yeah.
But that moment ruined my life, and I loved it. Okay. So overall thoughts on Ugly Stepsister, chat?
I liked it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was gross. I did appreciate the setting. I love a good just historic setting, and especially when they're dedicated to just the pageantry and the costuming
Gorgeous.
and give me weird, anachronistic like Sofia Coppola music, synth scores
Oh, yeah,
while they're
wow.
doing ballroom dancing.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I want that.
I like that too. Um, I also really like seeing something like this, which is really ornate and beautifully shot and really like thoughtfully put together in this world of like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, like takes on fairy tales, which are just such cash grabs and made so cheaply and like no inventive like filmmaking or thinking in them. And then this comes along and I'm like, okay, yeah, like these subverted fairy tale trope is like fun and you can still do a whole lot with it. So I loved it. I loved it. Big for me. I think this is gonna be a mild splash throughout the year, even though it's not in English. So
I think
hoping
so. I'm hoping they go into Violent Nature and they maybe do a little stateside theatrical release. I would
they
love to see.
really should. They really should get some people with cans of pea soup. Get
Yeah,
more throwing up. I told Patrick about that, and for the second time at least, I was like, we gotta start doing it for Dread. Send people in with fake vomit. And he was like, what? No. Um, okay, so let's move on to our second film today, which is Obex. Chad, do you wanna like let us know a little bit about this movie?
I do. Yeah. So in Obex, we've got Connor Marsh. He lives a secluded life with his dog Sandy. And one day he begins playing a new kind of state-of-the-art computer game, Obex. And Sandy eventually goes missing, and the line between reality and game blurs, and Connor has to venture into the strange game world of Obex to retrieve Sandy and bring her home.
Wow. It's stress. The dog stuff is stressful. We'll get to that, I guess.
Dog
Um,
stuff is very stressful.
who made it?
It is written and directed and starring Albert Burney,
Oh.
who you might know from Strawberry Mansion. I know
Mhm.
you're a big fan. So it retains a lot of that just innate weirdness.
Yeah.
It's black and white, and it's definitely sort of even before the weird game stuff enters, kind of blurring that line between reality and, sort of like fantasy. There's this sort of overarching motif of really horrifying, icky, disgusting cicadas coming out of
Yeah.
the ground that really was not that was not good for me. I don't do
Why?
bugs. I
Oh,
don't do
okay.
bugs.
Do you think
And
they were trying to gross you out with the
I
cicadas?
think so.
Okay.
There was squelching
Yeah.
and clawing and little bug insect noises,
Yeah.
and I'm not about it. But I do think Albert Burney, right? I think Obex was really accomplished. A really, I try not to use it regularly, but it felt like a very singular vision, right? Like this is
Mhm.
very clearly a vision, a world that only Albert Burney could have kind of conceived of. And one comparison I did not make in my formal review that I kept thinking of pretty regularly was Army of Darkness.
Mhm.
And, it's just something about this kind of like throwback practical vibe, this merging of like medieval fantasy with very distinct horror elements and some, dog trauma because put a dog in danger, I'm locked in.
Rotten. Rotten way to really lock me in. Good point. Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely haven't seen anything like this in recent memory. Honestly, there is a parallel between one. Although one is like like extremely colorful and like sugary visually, and then there's this one which is a little bit more like Lynchian, I guess, a little more like Eraserhead in its vibes, but very sweet, like really lovely and um like kind of a compassionate little film. And I find him to be like really lovely to sort of be with throughout. Um, can you tell us a little bit about the character that has a TV as a head? Because I was really enamored by that.
By the TV head.
Yeah. What's
Um,
going on there?
so in the game, he meets Victor, um, who is at first being kind of assailed by spooky cicada monsters.
Mhm.
And they just have like this really, I think, sweet kind of relationship. I don't want to say too much
Right.
because little TV head becomes key to kind of that finale.
Yeah.
But I think that inventiveness is very clear there. And like you said, just the sense of compassion.
Yeah.
It's a really kind of cute, just little like they're on a little quest together. They're questing in this world of Obex, and they're gonna go get Sandy.
And like
Um,
it doesn't matter how impossible it is. He's like, well, I gotta go get Sandy. So like that
gotta
sucks.
get Sandy, and we'll enlist the aid of Callie Hernandez's little angelic, ethereal Renaissance woman to do it.
Who is that?
Callie Hernandez, I did not recognize her at first, but
Uh-huh.
she was Blair Witch and Alien Covenant.
She was the Blair Witch? Or she was the
No, she
Blair Witch.
was the
Was she
lead.
purple hair?
No,
Well, then I don't know her.
she was dating the main guy.
Oh, the lead girl?
Yeah,
Whatever.
lead girl.
The lead
Blair
girl.
Witch.
Okay, I gotta rewatch that. Okay, so we've got like a little genre icon on our hands. Did you watch Divinity? I think it was a year or two ago. It was another black and white surrealist Sundance movie. It was giving similar vibes. And the
I did
girl
not.
version of that was
Bella Thorne.
Bella.
No.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah,
Bella
yeah, yeah,
Thorne?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. And that was Bella Thorne. Um, where does the horror come into this for you? Where, like, how does it play with genre and fear?
So this I love this conversation because horror is so diverse, and I think being in this industry, when you say something is horror or you say something is scary, you're always going to have those people who go, "No, that wasn't scary, that wasn't horror." And Obex certainly has a few like very clear genre tropes. I will
Hmm.
say it did make me jump once or twice. But beyond that, I think it's a very distinct kind of just like existential kind of dread. It's that sort of fear, this fear of isolation, this fear of not being connected, even in a weird sense, right? This kind of like fear of ourselves and this, I don't know, I picked up on this like undercurrent of loathing
Hmm.
in sort of capturing, his body to get into the game and just really feeling kind of unmoored in the world. And it just feels like everything is closing in around you, right? And Sandy, his dog, right, is the one kind of like outlet and escape he has. And Sandy, he can be authentic with, he can be genuine with. And Sandy just, kind of appeared out of the blue. But the world outside is really horrifying, and the world of Obex inside the game is really horrifying, and just kind of how you continue to quest on in the face of that much adversity.
I love that. That's very beautiful. At the beginning of the movie, he states that he's 36, and as a 35-year-old, this movie is what it feels like to be
To be
exactly 35.
36.
100%, like just desolate, like black and white desert, but it's cold, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you'll find out.
No, stop. Don't say that. I'm
No,
20.
you will. Okay, so what would you give this out of five?
I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Mhm.
I really do. I thought it was that a very singular vision, and I compared it in my review to Kurosawa's Pulse. Just that
Mhm.
sense of dread and feeling disconnected, and that desolate aimlessness of your mid 30s. I'm sorry.
Brutal.
But it resonated with me, and I do appreciate that, right? Because this one I think this is going to be a tough sell. This is going to be the weird movie that you tell people to watch, and they're going to be mad at you because it's weird, and they're going to
Yeah.
use art house as like a pejorative, and they're going to go, no, it's black and white. What? But I think if you sit down with it and you just let it kind of wash over you, I think it'll impact you.
Yes, there's going to be a handful of niche, like academic genre folk out there that will, I think, connect with it. But you never know. Sometimes the movies like these kind of go viral. They leak onto TikTok, so maybe that'll happen here. I love it. What's that fucking production or distributor? They put out the Volderock, like oscilloscope lab
Oh
recordings.
yeah, they have the little
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
vintage
I want them to take this one on.
title card. I
Who
would love
who would take this? Who like who do you think would take this fucker on in terms of distribution?
Honestly, I did get like IFC vibes from it.
Oh, yeah,
IFC Midnight, they take some weirdos and
IFC. That'd be nice. I'd be happy for that. I wonder who did this last one. I think it was like Music Box Theater or something. You know that theater in Chicago that's like kind
Mhm.
of famous. I think they like distribute a little bit.
Okay.
Hmm.
I hope it finds a home if it hasn't already.
Colgate TV dot fresh. That's my streamer. I also give this 4 stars. It's very unique and it is, you know what, the word I wish people didn't take away from us?
What?
Liminal. I wish that hadn't been just snatched by the culture because
That
this,
was TikTok. They stole it.
did they steal it? There you go.
TikTok. I blame TikTok.
This is liminal.
But
This is
yes, it
liminal
is
drama
liminal.
and in a beautiful, beautiful way. And yeah, I hope people get to watch it. There are skeletons and there is Freddy Krueger and there's a little bit of Jason Voorhees.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
It's
I want
so hard to describe, but like it works.
like, how do they get the rights to that? Anyways, yes. So let's go to our third movie of the day, which isn't a whole lot less strange. We've got Dead Lover, which is a Canadian film written and directed, produced, starring by Toronto girly Grace Golicki. It is inspired by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and it is about this woman's attempt to resurrect her deceased lover. So it is very scrappy. It is very bare bones and very sort of like gothic dark shadows. So the main character played by Glowicki is a gravedigger and she wants to find love. Like she's very persistent about wanting to find love in this life. But she's really stinky because she's a gravedigger. So she's really like looking for someone who will love her even though she's stinky, and that's going to be kind of tough. Well, luck has it that she meets a man that very much has appealed to her stink, and they do it a bunch, and it's lovely, and she's very excited. But alas, he quickly uh gets lost at sea and dies, and she has to find a way to cope, and she copes by trying to resurrect him. And then, mayhem does ensue. It is made in the style of the black box, like small theater productions. So it's filmed in like a dark room, very German expressionism vibes. So a lot of the time you'll have one actor in the center of the space with a spotlight on them, and that's all you've got. So it's like, very soliloquy in a small theater. But because of this, they can do some pretty old school techniques with like lighting and silhouette and stuff like that. So if you have the ability to handle some like very zany, very scrappy, low budget cinema, this is the best of that sort. It is really like there's so much heart here, and there's so much like zany art in it as well. You can tell that this is a person just with like an unfiltered vision, and she's just going to like persist until what she sees in her brain is in front of us. It will be polarizing. I think a lot of people will find it a little bit tedious, but the people that don't, I think, are really going to connect. I think they're going to like appreciate it for being something totally fresh and wackadoo. I think I described it as being like the punk kid sibling to recent movies like Nosferatu and Poor Things, and I definitely stand by that. It has a similar gothic revival slant, but it's like completely chaotic and very progressive and very queer and very transgressive and also just very trans all at the same time. Like nobody plays the same gender for very long. Everyone plays multiple roles and different genders. Almost half of the cast somehow transition genders throughout the film, and none of it is really like given much precedence. It's just the world of the movie, and I love that. Um, yeah, it feels disruptive, but also really like cute. So that's something that I really liked about it. And Toronto girly, that's where I'm from. Love that for her.
If you had to, what would you rate it?
So this is definitely a 4-star movie for me. This is maybe not something I'm going to rush to see again anytime soon, but I feel so like grateful I got to see this one,
Mm,
and that's always a good sign. So
yeah.
it's weird. It's like this is cinema at its like, most distilled. So I like that about it. Um, Chad, why don't we talk about our last movie of the day? We've got The Virgin of Quarry Lake. Do you want to lead us on this one?
I would love to. So the version of the Quarry Lake, Laura Casabe directed. It's
Mhm.
2001. We've got three teenagers in the outskirts of Buenos Aires. They fall in love with the little cutie patootie Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Natalia has always had the most chemistry with him. We all know what that's like. And their friendship, though, seems inevitably to turn into something more until cool girl Sylvia appears and captures Diego's attention.
Damn.
We've got Sylvia. So this is based on two different short stories from a Argentine author, Mariana Enriquez.
Hmm.
I'm not familiar with the source material, but in my review, I describe this as Piggy meets the craft. We've got the kind of hot summer air, this kind of like burgeoning young love, mixed with, I think, a really grounded kind of approach to witchcraft, because soon Natalia seeks the aid of certain, sort of spells and rituals to try to win Diego's heart. And I won't spoil what those very dire consequences end up being, but it's a very slow burn. It
Yeah.
feels simultaneously,
Yeah.
horror coded, but with a touch of coming of age.
Yeah.
I think the authenticity for the period is really stellar, and that was one of the key things that worked really well for me. There's
Hmm.
a very particular scene early on where Natalia is trying to impress Diego, and she feigns interest in a particular band, and Sylvia remarks, "Oh, I thought you were a bigger Britney Spears fan, right? You're mainstream. You're not punk, you're not underground. You don't know stuff that I know. I smoke weed and have piercings and jet black hair. And like honestly, like it would have worked on me, right? Like
Yeah.
Sylvia, she was cool. I'd have been at that age all about Sylvia. So I get Diego's affinity for her.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh, yeah.
think that the screenplay nicely captures that kind of adolescent desperation where you just want to be liked and you want to be loved and contextually right, sort of Buenos Aires, right? They're falling apart. They've got water rations. So this is something within Natalia's kind of locus of control. She can't control the state of the world. She can't control the state of her country, but she can make Diego fall in love with her, and she's going to try her damnedest.
Now there was like a B story that I found very like beguiling about like a shopping cart.
No, we can.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Um,
Yeah, do you want to like tell us a little bit about that?
yeah, so, the Virgin of the Quarry Lake opens with this unhoused man being kind of violently extricated from this little rural road where Natalia lives with her grandmother, and this kind of just assemblage of wayward kids are all staying there. And throughout the film, right, the shopping cart gets increasingly grosser and it starts dripping things,
Oh,
and there's this implication that it might be cursed,
mm-hmm.
that there's dark energy. Wife swap. It's dark sided that shopping cart,
Scary. Yes. Love
and I think it's a really strong sort of visual,
that. Mm-hmm.
just like consistent visual as it sort of nears the conclusion. Right, we shift into this coming of age stuff, but we always kind of return to these static images of that shopping cart just getting increasingly ickier to kind of remind us that there might be, right, forces beyond our own kind of at play here. And we know that as teenagers, you shouldn't mess with that kind of stuff. But sometimes we do anyway because we're
I have to
horny.
just say I have to apologize too because I have a little tiny pea brain, and I thought, but I knew I guess on some level I didn't that I came up with that comparison, the craft versus Piggy, and I said it today at work in front of you and all of our fucking coworkers, and they all thought I made that comparison up. But of course, it's because I read your review and edited it. Uh, I think I knew at least to say maybe this is what Chad said. I think I went that far though.
I will still credit you. I think even without it,
No, Chad,
you
no,
would have
don't
come up with
stop,
that
no.
comparison. You like 90s horror
You
and
have to
Piggy.
stop. I did like Piggy. Um, Something about this movie that I found pretty, I don't know, like memorable and jarring was its approach to sex and like be like sex as a teenager. Can I like ask you to like sort of give, what your thoughts on some of those moments, including when they go to a sex worker?
Yeah, so I mean, it's certainly culturally, I think, distinct, not necessarily something I have a great deal of familiarity with,
Mhm.
but there is this overarching pressure, especially for these young girls, to have sex because everyone around them is. And I think at that age, especially, right, sex is currency. And if Natalia can be sexually active and she can have sex and she can kind of embody and exhibit that, then, her mind is kind of rationalizing that as then Diego will just intuitively pick up on that as me being a sexual being now. And I think, that pressure that's where some of the horror for me, I think, came from.
Okay.
Just that horror to ingratiate yourself into that world, especially when your peers, everyone around you is
Hmm.
to be then the one who feels like I am left behind, right? Everyone is having sex now except for me. And not to make it too deep, but I do think, just kind of my queer experience, I think there was a little bit of poignancy there because in terms of access and opportunity, it certainly wasn't the same for me growing up to express myself sexually at the same just sort of rate or frequency my peers were. So there was that sense of, I'm kind of falling behind and I'm not doing this rite of passage that everyone else is doing. And this fear then that everyone can kind of sense it on you, right? They know like you're not having sex.
I almost think, you know what, like kind of like we kind of can read, you know, the kids that are cool versus the kids that aren't. There is some kind of like, I don't know, impulse there. Yeah, I find that interesting. There was also a moment where the lead character, yeah, I don't know how to say it, that she like fingers a straight guy, and I found that moment like really, I don't know, not like something I've seen a lot.
They're
No.
doing whatever they can.
Liked the plastic choker too. That was cute. I don't know. Did we explicitly say it's set in 2001? You did say Britney Spears,
I did, yeah. I don't know if we did, but it's set in 2001, and I think those period details are pretty spot on, which I always appreciate.
especially in a world of post time cut. Did you see it?
No, but I know about the Hillary Duff scene.
It's just like it's just so lazy with its like early 2000s period, set dressings that it's nice to see something do it and it be like realistic and three-dimensional and not just like a couple of like colorful posters on a wall. Like this
Mhm.
felt lived in. So,
Listen, chat rooms are
oh yeah, the chat
key to this movie, and I love chat room rep.
room I was just thinking about chat room culture the other day because how are we supposed to like Google how to murder people now if we can't go to a chat room and do it anonymously? Like you can't do it on your phone,
No.
can't do it at home. They're always checking that.
And you have to be respectable. You can't have like cool chat room usernames.
Yeah, like goth girl, big tits, 99. What
Yeah.
was what was it in Urban Legend?
Oh my God.
I thought that in my mind that's what it was. Um, uh, not to go.
Danielle Harris.
Well, I'm glad you said it out loud. So now it's on topic. Did you see what's happened to her Facebook page?
Danielle Harris is no.
Yeah, it's been hacked. It's been like absolutely absconded. And this has been like months now.
It
And
was
they're just,
Jamie Lee Curtis.
yeah. And they're just posting like this most horrible, like clickbaity, like terrible shit. And everyone's like, Danielle Harris, are you okay? And it's just been months of this.
Is it
I
too shady to say she's gonna reemerge and be like, I am okay. Also, I'd like to be in the next Halloween movie.
I mean, what does she have? She's got a bloody disgusting podcast. Okay, she's got a history on Roseanne. Um, she's got things.
Oh,
Underrated.
this
I
is sad.
what I know. Are you seeing? It's like
I'm
pretty.
looking live. Yeah.
It's crazy. Everyone go report Danielle Harris's Facebook because
Did
she's
she
been trying to
know?
gain back. Yeah, she's been trying to get back access, and Meta's like, we don't exist. So
People are engaging
I
pretty
know.
regularly.
Are they like, we know this is a hacker? What's up?
No, she
Oh,
posted Beyonce finally gets her crowning moment, and everyone's debating it in the comments.
Beyonce did get her crowning moment, so there you go. Yeah, report Danielle Harris to the authorities. She's a criminal. Well, Chad, how was your overall Sundance experience this year compared to other years?
So I will say the remote access, this is my kind of plea, right? I think that remote access is key to allowing diverse voices, diverse critics into the festival, giving them access. And I remain, I think, just grateful that the festival makes that available and makes it an option. I wish all festivals would do that. It is certainly a different environment than being on the ground in Park City. If you can imagine me tucking my hair, because I did that. But I generally, overall, I think it was really strong. What I always appreciate about the Midnighters, especially, and I think you can even gather that from the four we talked about here. They're all different. They're all unique experiences. No one feature is quite like another.
Mhm.
And I think you get this really solid, just kind of spectrum of different horror experiences.
Oh, well, that's very beautiful. Chad, where can you be found on the internet if you wanted to be found there?
I am still on Twitter.
Well, boo, me too.
I'm like a cockroach.
Yeah.
At Chad is Collins and Chad Coolins on Instagram, and also at Chad is Collins on Letterboxd because I'm trying to make that work.
I support that. Thank you so much for joining me once again on Development Hell. Thank you so much for listening to Development Hell. If you enjoy this podcast, then please do us a major favor of leaving us 5 stars and writing a positive review. It really makes all the difference in the world. We'll see you next week with a brand new episode of Development Hell.
Thank you for listening to the Dread Podcast Network.